This ain't just a channel, this is BBTV.
It's Truthful Tuesday. No sugarcoating, no polite lies, just the kind of honesty that makes people nod slowly and rethink their life decisions. Let's talk about it.
A boss be rising, BBTV's igniting, turn the volume up, yeah, the whole world's invited, from the gravel road to the neon dream, she built an empire out of broken wings. Boss be rising, sky ain't even the ceiling, when she hits go live, everybody feels it.
Ooh, caught me. I was getting me a drink. All right, y'all, listen. It's Truthful Tuesday, and I've been getting some emails telling me I need to get back to my Am I the A-hole? So we're going to go back to that today. So listen, it's Truthful Tuesday, and today is one of those days where we are not easing into anything because the stories we're talking about today, okay, they're not light. They're not surface level, and they are definitely not comfortable. And I need y'all to really settle in for this one because both of these situations come down to something that a lot of people struggle with. And that's the difference between what feels easier to say and what is actually true, because those are not always the same thing. Sometimes the truth is messy, sometimes it's uncomfortable, and sometimes, more than not, it does not sound the way people want it to sound. And I want to get into that today. And today is what happens when someone finally says it anyway, okay? When they stop softening it, when they stop protecting everybody else's feelings, and, they just say exactly what they've been holding in. Because a lot of people say they want honesty. But what they really want is honesty that does not disrupt anything. And that is not what we're dealing with today. Today, we're dealing with honesty that changes things, honesty that makes people uncomfortable, and it forces situations out into the open, whether people are ready for it or not. That question right there is not just, was it right to say it, but what happens after it's said? Because once the truth is out there, you don't get to put it back the way it was before. So that's where we're going today. And I already know some of this is going to hit a little close to home for some of y'all, because we have all been in a situation where we had to decide, do I say it or do I keep the peace? And today we're talking about what happens when you say it. Plain and simple. Not going to sugarcoat nothing. You know that's how I roll here. We don't sugarcoat poop around here. So, back into our AITA mode. Hey, shut me up, sweetie. Bye. Now then that we got rid of the trash today, listen here. I'm going to scoot on over and we're going to get into this. And our first story is a long one, but it's worth it. So, am I the a-hole for not making the truth sound nicer in family therapy and standing by what I said? So, my mom passed away when I was 17 male. When I was 4. Now 17 male, pardon me. My dad sent me to live with his parents immediately after. He said couldn't cope without mom and wanted me to have a stable life. I still saw him and stuff, but he wasn't raising me. That was left to my grandparents. They encouraged him to see me as much as he could, and he tried to swing by at least once a week, but that didn't always happen. It was really awkward, and I remember being kind of sad about it for a year or more. Then it just became my new normal. When I was 8, my dad announced he was moving and wasn't sure when he'd come back. I didn't see him for more than 2 years, and when he moved back, he wanted me back. Oh, goodness. I was 10 by then. He was a stranger to me then, too, so I didn't want to live with him, and my grandparents didn't want me to be taken back like that. Dad told them it was fine, and he met someone and we'd all move in together in a few months. They said it wasn't even more, pardon me, they said it was even more of a reason for me to stay because I wouldn't adjust well to random people coming in and living with me. He said, they're not random. I said, or I was about to have a new mom and brother. They wanted to know if he had a kid with someone, and he said no. His fiance had a kid already, but he was going to raise him as his own. Hmm, already a mess, I see. Goodness. So, my dad started a court battle with my grandparents when his wife moved to town to live with him. But they weren't married at the time. Dad said he'd been patient, but he didn't like that they were keeping me from him. I told him I didn't want to live with him, but he ignored me and when I said it. And after months of fighting in court and me taking or talking to people from the court, my dad won. Mm. It took almost a year, though, and I was almost 12 by then, but I was forced to live with him and his wife and her son and their baby they'd just had. My dad was acting like I had never lived apart from him, and his wife acted like she was my mom. She'd tell me what to do. You need to play more sports, spend less time with these friends because I don't like them, spend time with your brother, and expect me to help out around the house and help her specifically. She said it was good for us to make up for all the time that was lost. So I'd have to sit with her while she cooked and stuff, and she'd give me consequences for having an attitude about it. And whenever I told her she wasn't my mom, she would give even more consequences. I had stopped calling my dad years before he took custody of me back, and that was something he tried to change when I moved in with them. He'd tell me I had a mom and a dad and a brother and a sister, and using names and not acknowledging the family relationships were wrong. I told him they weren't really my family, and he spent time telling me why they were and why I needed to be more open minded about it. Oh my goodness, what a mess. Really. I never called him dad again. And I'm only doing it here for the sake of the post. I never called his wife mom or the kids my siblings. I never wanted to be a part of their family, and it started to impact my grades. My grandparents used that and some other stuff when I was 15 to fight for custody again. They were denied originally, but then it became a bigger fight. I had to speak to a therapist, someone from the court system, a GAL, and a children's advocate person, not the GAL, but someone else. And after a lot of discussing what was the best thing for me and figuring out other stuff, as well as me studying up on how to speak more maturely so I could get a judge to listen to me, the judge let me go back to my grandparents, but ordered that I take part in family therapy with my dad until I turn 18. Seems smart enough to me. That was almost a year ago, and I was 16 when that happened. I don't really take the therapy sessions seriously, and I take them less serious after dad went back to court to ask for his wife to be included in the sessions, which the judge allowed. Oh gosh. Okay, so now I have to see both of them once a week for an hour. I don't say anything in therapy usually. I don't like the therapist, and I have my own, so I don't need them for anything. But a few weeks ago, I did speak up because the therapist told me everyone needed to be honest at least once, and that I might as well say whatever it was that goes through my head. Oh, and it's going to get messier, watch. So I stopped wanting him back and wanting to live with him when I was about 6 or 7, and that I stopped wanting to be a part of his family again. I said he wasn't a good dad, and just because he tried, but only when his wife came into his life, it didn't mean I was okay with that. And I said the whole thing of having a new mom and brother was wrong because my mom died and some strange pushy lady he met somewhere wasn't going to take her place just because she wanted some perfect family image. Sounds like a very smart 17-year-old, if you ask me. I said they tore me away from my home and the parents who raised me so they could play at being good people. I said a stranger told me who I could and couldn't be friends with and what kinds of hobbies I should have. I said I was punished for saying she wasn't my mom when she wasn't. I wasn't, or I said that they had brought up their kids hurting and missing me. And I said it was their fault because dad ignored me when I said I didn't want to live with them. I also said I wasn't ever going to want a relationship with their kids because to me, blood doesn't make us siblings, it makes us related. And the same with one being raised by my dad. It makes us sort of related, but not family, not siblings. And the more they keep expecting that to change, the more they hurt their kids. This sounds like a very, very smart young man to me. Goodness. My dad really didn't see what I said coming. His wife didn't look surprised, but more offended that I basically said she was nothing but a stranger to me when she was trying to play mommy. I got shit from them and the therapist for not making the truth kinder. The therapist said, I can clearly speak with maturity in court, so being nicer about the truth would have been far better. No. After that, I stopped speaking again, but it has come up since then. Am I the a-hole? Wow. Right? I mean, what a disaster here. Look. Hold on. I need a second with this one because, look, wow. This right here. This is not petty. It's not small. This is not, oh, you could have said it nicer. This is years and years of stuff stacked on top of each other, finally coming out in one place. And I already know how this is going to go because anytime somebody tells the truth out loud and it don't sound pretty, everybody suddenly has an issue with the delivery instead of the content. That's why that's what this feels like to me. Pardon me. Because let's be real for a second, okay? You don't get to walk out of a child's life. Decide when you're ready to come back. Bring a whole new family into the picture. And then expect that child to just fall in line like nothing ever happened. That's not how people work. That's definitely not how children work. And that's what you should not be teaching your child. Okay? That's not how kids work. That's not how trust works. And the part that really got me is the idea that because he tried later, that should somehow erase everything that came before. Baby, no. Effort does not cancel out absence. Trying later does not undo what somebody experienced when you weren't there. I need people to really sit with that because that's where a lot of this disconnect is coming from. And then we got to talk about this whole new mom situation because listen, I don't give a flip how good your intentions are. I don't care how much you think you're stepping into a role. You cannot force a relationship like that. You're not just automatically mom on just because it's on paper. You cannot walk into somebody's life, especially a child who has lost their mom. Not just she left. She passed away. He lost his mother. And then you turn around and you decide, okay, I'm going to be mom now. No, honey, no. Very presumptuous, I would think. That's not your pace or your place to decide. That's something that either grows naturally over time or it doesn't happen at all. And when you try to force it, when you start giving consequences, because a child won't call you mom, when you start telling them who they can be friends with and what they should like, now it's not about connection anymore. It's about control. And kids feel that. Kids are a lot smarter than we give them credit for. Let me tell you, I've had 3. They might not have the words for it at first, but they feel it, okay? And what I'm hearing in this is a kid who felt controlled, not understood at all. And then it goes ahead and addresses the part that everybody seems to be stuck on, the therapy session. Look, that therapist done pissed me off. I'm going to tell you that straight out. I wouldn't be back. I would refuse to go. You know, all of a sudden, the issue is not what was said. It's how it was said. You should have been nicer. You should have softened it. You should have said it differently. And I'm sitting here like, for who? For whose comfort? Because clearly not for the child's comfort. And the child is the one that should be the only one that matters here. Just because you finally got your shit straight, dude, come on. That doesn't mean that you get to just automatically assume that this child is going to be okay with that. Because he's the one that's been sitting in this for years. He's the one that had to adjust his life over and over again based on decisions he didn't get to make. He's the one that had to go from one home to another, from one version of family to another, from being raised by his grandparents to suddenly being told, this is your mom now, this is your brother now, act like it. Listen, from somebody who was partially raised by her grandparents, that's not how this works. It's just not. And I have 5 other siblings whom I love dearly. Okay, we had the opportunity to connect. We're not like this, but we like to see each other's faces every now and then, and that's a good place for me. I'm good with that. I'm perfectly fine with that. But if my father expected me to go over there and act like the big sister that I am, because I am the oldest, and I was supposed to take responsibility for all of this stuff, I can tell you right now, I don't think that I could, because we're just not that close. And quite frankly, I would be thinking that my siblings are probably going to not like me anymore. And that's not a good place to be, right? Can you imagine what this child's siblings? You're the oldest, okay? That's a difference in people's lives. Let me tell you, when you're the oldest of siblings, and I am the oldest of 6. Yeah. So that would be a lot for me to have to take over. But look, now that he finally says how he actually feels, now we want to talk about tone? No, we're not doing that, because let me tell you something, okay? Honesty is not always gentle. Sometimes honesty sounds exactly like what it is, and that's the truth. And that's what he said. He gave the truth. They didn't like it, and that's the only reason why they wanted him to be nicer about it. It was the truth. Nobody likes to hear the truth when they think they're the one that's right, and they're not. Look, truth, especially when it's been held in for a long time, is not going to come out polished and soft and easier to hear. It's going to come out real. It's going to come out raw. It's going to come out in a way that it makes people uncomfortable. And that discomfort, that's not his responsibility to fix. That belongs to the people who created this situation in the first place. His father, plain and simple. And I mean, for her to think she could just walk in and be mom, I'm sorry. If I were dating somebody, because they weren't married yet, if I were dating somebody that had a child already, okay, my first thought would be, hey, does this child like me? And if not, this is probably the best place to start, because this man is thinking, in a perfect world, of course, this man is thinking, my child has to like you or it's a no go. That's deal breaker, because the child comes first. It don't matter how old they are, who their mama was, how their mama's gone. It don't matter. It's about the child. And I think that that's the part that people don't like to hear, okay? Because it's easier to say you should have said it nicer than to say maybe we didn't handle this the way we should have. And I'm not even saying that this dad didn't try to at some point, okay? You got to give him a little bit of credit for coming back. Most don't. Although with his attitude, the kid might be better off if he don't. Sorry, my opinion, and I'm not a professional, so don't even try. But that is my opinion, and we're allowed to have those here. I'm not saying that the wife didn't think she was doing something good, okay? I'm not going to leave it on her either. But intention does not erase impact. You can mean well and still do damage. You can try and still hurt somebody. And if you don't acknowledge that, if you don't take responsibility for that, then all you're doing is expecting the other person to carry the weight of your choices. And we're talking about a child carrying that weight. And that's exactly what this feels like. It feels like they wanted him to adjust, to accept, to play along, to make it easier for everybody else without ever really sitting down and saying, what did this feel like for you? They didn't want to know that. They just asked the wrong question. Because had they asked it, don't give us the truth, then maybe he would have told them what they wanted to hear. But instead, he took his opportunity like he was given. And not in a real way, not in a way where the answer really mattered. Then the therapy piece, okay? I am so stuck up on this therapist right now, because this is what bothered me. You've got a kid who already said he doesn't want to be there, who already has his own therapist because of this mess, who is clearly not comfortable in this space. And the one time that he actually speaks up and says something real, the response, you should have said it nicer. That is the fastest way to make somebody shut down again. And he did, didn't he? He said he wasn't talking anymore. Because now you've just confirmed that it's not actually safe for them to be honest. It's only safe for them to be honest in a way that makes everybody else feel better, right? That's not therapy. That's performance. That wasn't a therapist. That was somebody placating to the parents. And he already said he's not taking it seriously. Can you blame him? I want to say this part very clearly, because this is where people might get a little uncomfortable. He is not wrong for how he feels. Not wrong at all. You don't have to agree with how he said it. You don't have to like the way it came out. But his feelings, those are valid. Those are built on years of experience. And he's too young for that kind of experience, okay? Years of adjustment, of being moved around and expected to just go with it. And now that he's old enough to actually put it into words, now that he's old enough to say this is what this felt like, now it's a problem? Are you kidding me? No, that's not how this works. Now, could it have been said differently? Sure. I'll give you that. Anything can be said differently, right? And I just keep using that word today, different. anything can be said differently, but that doesn't make what he said wrong. That just means it was honest. And sometimes honesty is messy. It's uncomfortable. It's not wrapped up in a pretty little bow that makes everybody feel good, you know? That doesn't make it less true. And I think what this really comes down to, they didn't have an issue with him speaking. They had an issue with what he said or how he said it. Not even with what he said, with how he said it. And instead of addressing that, instead of sitting with that, instead of asking themselves, why does he feel this way? They went straight to, you should have been nicer. Who's the child in this situation is what I want to know. That tells me everything I need to know about the adults in the room and about why he feels the way he does. Because if you can't handle the truth when it's finally said out loud, then you were never really ready to hear it in the first place. You know it's true. And that's not him. Not on him. That's all on them. It's completely and totally on them. All right, y'all. Y'all know how I do this AITA thing. Look, I'm going to take my break, though. And I'm going to come back. We've got some comments on this. And I have another short story for you. Be right back. Y'all enjoy the new song.
Boss B. Yeah. Press go! Yeah. Press go. Yeah. I don't warm up, I just hit go. These moves I don't even know. Still ain't solid, still stay loud. Turn one stream into a whole damn crowd. Didn't come clean, didn't come neat. Built this thing while missing sleep. If it breaks, I build it fast. I don't sit, I move right past. I ain't waiting for the green light glow. Whole thing moving before I say go. If it shakes, let it shake. I adjust on sight. Turn one wrong move into something right. Then I'm in it, BBTV. Yeah, we run it, didn't plan it, still done it. Press go, no pause, no edit. If I start, I don't get it. Not rising, I've been did it. Now I move like I'm in it. Press go. Now I move like I'm in it. I don't chase what I already made. Too much just to be afraid. Some days loud, some days low. Still everything I touch gon' grow. Laugh through chaos, talk through noise. Turn real life into my choice. If it flicks, I flip it twice. I don't roll, I control the dice. Ain't no clean take, ain't no reset. Everything live, I ain't done it yet. If it hits wrong, I rewrite fast. Future moving, I don't live in then I'm in it, BBTV. Yeah, we run it, didn't plan it, still done it. Press go. No pause, no edit. If I start, I don't get it. Not rising, I've been did it. Now I move like I'm in it. No script, no pause, no clean lines, no second thoughts. I don't wait for perfect timing, I just move when it hits, that's all I got. Messy, loud, still ends clean. Built this whole thing in between. Every moment I didn't know still turned into something I can show. Press go. Press go. Don't overthink it. If it moves, then I'm in it. BBTV. Yeah, we run it. Didn't plan it. Still done it. Press go. No pause, no edit. If I start, I don't and I've been did it. Now I move like I'm in it. Let's go. That's all I do now. BBTV.
All right, we are back. What y'all think of that new song? I'm loving it. It's a little bit rock, it's a little bit country, it's a lot of me. All right, let's get back into it because we got some comments on this because this stuff was a mess. And believe me, I needed that break just to cool off. All righty, back to it. Here we go. Now, first comment. They stole you from your family and then punished you for telling the truth. Maybe they're the ones that should have been nice, not the a-hole. And we have an OP response. OP is original poster. My dad still argues they kept me from him too, even though he was the one who gave me to his parents to raise. He's the one who left town and didn't see me in 2 years. He made those choices, but he blames my grandparents instead of looking at how he forked up. Yes, I said forked. No, that's not what it says, but that's the word I use here. Guess he married someone who blindly supported him and had the arrogance to think a 12-year-old would call some stranger mom. Look, this right here is exactly the problem because now we're looking at someone trying to rewrite their own choices like they just happened to them. Okay, how are you going to say someone kept you from your child when you are the one who handed that child over and then left for 2 years? No, that does not work like that. You do not get to make those decisions and then turn around and act like you were pushed out of the picture. No, sir, please. And you know what? That part about him marrying someone who just backed him up without question, that's not support. That's enabling. Now you have two adults standing in the same bad decision, trying to force it into something that looks right instead of actually taking responsibility for what happened, and expecting a 12-year-old to suddenly accept a stranger as their mother. That's where everything falls apart, if you ask me. You cannot force a title. You cannot force a bond. And you definitely cannot punish someone into feeling something they don't feel. That is not how relationships are built, okay? That is how resentment grows, and that is exactly what you are hearing come out now, you know? All right, second comment. It's a little bit longer. That's why this one's so long, and we had to take a break. Anyway, I do wonder if he sold himself to his wife not as a deadbeat who left his child after his first wife died, but instead as the poor, sad widow who couldn't cope and trusted your grandparents to help, only to be cruelly kept away from his child when he was ready to step up. Cue the court battles, the attempts to reunite, aka pretend it all didn't happen and that he's just the bestest man ever, and the BS in therapy. Your family therapist is a moron. Agreed. There's no way you can pretty up the truth, nor do you need to. Your dad is a selfish deadbeat. His wife is a short sighted twit who thought she could step in and replace your mom. And their attempts to act like things will never be perfect when every step they've made has been based on what they want and not on what you need is just insulting. Amen. You lost your dad when you lost your mom, and your grandparents have been your parents ever since. That's the reality. Your dad, his wife, and that piss poor excuse of a therapist might not like it, but it doesn't mean it's any less true. If your therapist tries to get you to speak again, just say, I did speak. I told the truth about what has happened and how I feel about it. And my dad, his wife, and you all decided to try to guilt and shame me for it because I couldn't pretty up the ugly truth. I will not engage when none of you want to hear what I have to say. Agreed, honey. Agreed. I do have to ask, though, how awkward are those sessions for you to attend? It is just those three having a chat amongst themselves? Probably, but there is a response. The sessions are awkward. Mostly they're boring because it's my dad or his wife are bringing up all this stuff they want to happen. And my dad saying my grandparents kept me from him for way too long when he was ready to take me back. Or how he feels like they engaged in parental alienation when I don't call him dad. And his wife cries about how I never gave her a chance and all she wanted was for all the kids in their home to be their kids and not to feel like she had less importance because I was just his kid. Oh my gosh. Anybody else want to jump through the screen with me? And then they talk about their kids and their feelings, and a lot of the stuff they say gets repeated. Pretty much all of it, really. Pretty much. Another response from the first commenter. So it's all them, and their feelings. I'm sorry you've been having to deal with all of this. Your dad just does not want to accept reality, and neither does his wife. Sad but true statement. They aren't allowed or they aren't owed a relationship with you. And certainly they don't get to demand that you give them the exact type of relationship they want. Your dad doesn't want to accept that he threw his relationship with you away. And his wife doesn't want to accept that she either married a liar who made false promises about what things would look like when they moved in together, or else that she married a deadbeat so she could Frankenstein some sort of happy family together. I like that. Not once have they shown they care about you and your feelings. It's so awful and so selfish of them. They honestly think they can badger you into wanting to be around them. You must be counting down the days until you're 18. I certainly would be. Like this right here. This is where it starts making a little too much sense, if you ask me, because now you can actually see the version of the story they've been telling themselves this whole time. That idea of, I was ready, I tried, I came back for you, while completely skipping over everything that led up to that point. And then you've got the sessions themselves. And it's all about that, what they want, what they feel, what they hoped would happen. And somehow you're just supposed to fit into that picture without anyone really stopping to ask what it felt like for you. That's the part that stands out to me. It's not just that they don't agree with you, it's that they don't seem to be hearing you at all. Because if every conversation keeps circling back to them, their intentions, their feelings, their versions of events, then of course nothing is going to change. You can't build a relationship around one side's expectations and ignore the other side's reality, okay? And that's why it keeps feeling the same, because it is the same, just repeated over and over again. Third comment. not the a-hole. The therapist told you to speak your truth. They can't now say you should have said it nicer. I'd have pointed out wouldn't have been your truth if it was nicer. There's a good point. That all these sessions, your so-called parents didn't care about being nicer in that what they said to me, that okay, that it's clear he's a crappy therapist who takes sides instead of being impartial, like a dictated, like is dictated in the fact that he let them harass you, or sorry, the spellings are a little wrong and off here. And the fact he let them harass you for being honest is one of the big no's in regulations for therapists. True. Please speak to your own therapist. You said you had one, and ask them to help you make an official complaint about the therapist holding the mandated sessions. Very good advice. I like that one. Okay. That he told you to speak your truth and then let them bully you for it, and he joined in. That it's clear they are not impartial, and you no longer feel safe going back to those sessions again. I totally agree with this. Amen to that. Get your therapist to write to the judge about what's been happening and how the sessions are being used purely to bully you. That for your health, you will no longer continue with them as it's detrimental for you whilst it's that therapist. That therapist should be investigated and disciplined, but all this has done is make more damage and a bigger wedge between you and your dad and his wife. That's true. That is so true and so terrible. You thought you were making it better and you didn't because you couldn't get off your high horse, Dad. Sorry, sweet tea in Texas. Okay. That none of this is healthy anymore and needs to be readdressed. Amen. Agreed. And the OP responded, thankfully. I brought it up to my therapist and they asked about a complaint, but I'm not wanting another court fight. I can understand that. I lived through enough of them and I know that might make me shitty because others could have to deal with it. But I just want to keep my head down and make it through the next few months until I can stop going. Court's exhausting, and I feel like I end up having to deal with my dad more when we're dealing with court stuff. There's truth behind that. Plus, the judge really made us fight to change custody the last time, and I don't want to fork that up. All right, but you're 17. Watch your mouth. Sorry. The whole be nicer thing is funny to me because why tell me to be honest if you want me to be nice about it? Sometimes the truth can't be said in a nice way. Very smart young man, though. You're allowed that one F-bomb, okay? Look, this right here is where you can hear just how tired he is because this is not somebody who does not know what the right move might be. Okay, this is somebody who has already been through enough to know what it costs. And I think that's the part people miss when they start saying file a complaint or take it back to court, because that sounds simple when you're not the one who has to live through it. But for him, court is not just paperwork, it's stress. More time around his dad. That's got to be more stress in itself. It's more conversations that go nowhere. Like more of the same cycle he is already trying to get through. And I don't blame him one bit for saying, I'm not putting myself back in that just to prove a point. You can't blame him for that, right? That is not weakness. That is survival. And that line he said about the truth not always being nice, that is exactly it. And at 17, knowing that, he's a little well beyond his years there. You can't ask someone to be honest and then turn around and punish them for how that honesty sounds or it lands. Because I don't think he said anything wrong. And that's They didn't want him to be honest. They wanted him to perform, and they wanted to hear what they wanted to hear. That was it. And he is not interested in performing for them anymore. He's trying to make it through the next few months with his peace intact. And honestly, that's probably the most mature decision in this entire situation. Yeah, I think so. All right, I have one more small little story here. Let me pull it up. Get it together. Get it together, Boss B. All righty, here we go. Am I the a-hole for telling my niece the truth about her biological father against her mother's wishes? I know. Calm down, though. It's fair. Sorry. That time of year in Texas, when it's, bipolar weather. All right. When my sister was in college, she dated a married man who told her he'd leave his wife for her. When she got pregnant by him, possibly deliberately in an attempt to speed up his leaving his wife, he ended the affair. She was completely devastated and humiliated. She's made it clear we're not to tell her daughter about the affair. She said she'd tell her when she was old enough. My niece is now 15, and it turns out my sister has been heavily discouraging her from asking questions about her biological father by saying she's too traumatized to talk about it, implying that it's a way darker story than it is. My poor niece has just been assuming she's the biological daughter of some monster. And worse, when she's in trouble, my sister has gotten into the habit of telling her she's just like her father. Oh. So when my niece started tearfully confiding in me about how she has some anger issues, so she's afraid she's going to turn out to be a monster like her biological father, I told her the truth. Ruh-roh. This has caused a huge rift between my sister and her daughter, and my sister is furious with me for telling a story it wasn't my place to tell. She claimed she was going to tell her the truth when she was ready, but I don't really believe her, and I think she was doing a lot of damage to her daughter by withholding the truth and implying her biological father was a monster and then comparing her to him. Yeah, so this is messy in a completely different way, because now we're not dealing with absence, we're dealing with information and who gets to control it. And I need to slow this down for a second, just a hot second, because on one hand, yes, that is her mother's story to tell. That is her history. That is something personal, and I understand wanting to control how and when that comes out, okay? Don't get me wrong. But on the other hand, okay, you've got a 15-year-old girl sitting there thinking she came from something dark, something dangerous, something she needs to be afraid of, and that's not coming from nowhere. That's coming from what she's been told, or more importantly, what she hasn't been told. And that right there is where it starts to shift for me, because listen, this isn't just about keeping a secret. This is about the impact of that secret. If the silence is creating fear, if the silence is making her question who she is, being used to in moments of anger to say, you're just like your father, while she believes her father is some kind of monster, then we're not protecting her anymore. You're hurting her. You're manipulating her. That's your child, lady. Ooh. And I think that's the part the sister is not really facing, okay? Because let's be totally honest. Saying, I'll tell her when she's ready sounds good, but at 15, she's already forming her identity. She's already asking questions. filling in the blanks with whatever information she has that's come out your mouth. And right now, those blanks are being filled with fear and shame. And that's not neutral. That's not harmless. That's shaping how she sees herself. So when she comes to someone she trusts, upset, crying, saying she's scared, she's going to turn into something bad, that's not the moment to protect an adult's comfort. That's the moment to protect the child. And that's what this feels like to me. It feels like you stepped in because the damage was already happening, not because you were trying to overstep. Now, does that mean it wasn't your place at all? That's where it gets complicated because technically, yeah, it wasn't your story to tell. Okay? I'm sure plenty of people would argue that. But sometimes doing the right thing in a technical sense still leaves someone hurting, right? And sometimes stepping outside of that line is what actually helps. And I think that's what you did here. You know, you didn't, oh gosh, you didn't go out of your way to expose anything. You didn't sit her down and decide, today I'm telling her everything. You responded to a moment where she was clearly struggling with something that was built on a misunderstanding, and you corrected that. You gave her truth instead of fear. And the real issue here isn't even that you told her. It's that now the truth has disrupted a narrative your sister was holding on to. The manipulation that she was capable of in that moment. Because once that version of the story is gone, once her daughter understands what actually happened, now your sister has to face not just the past, but how she handled it. That's uncomfortable. That's where the anger is coming from. Not just that you spoke, but that what you said changed something she was controlling. At the end of the day, this comes down to impact versus ownership. And yes, it was her story, but the impact of how she handled that story was landing on her daughter in a way that was not healthy. And you chose to protect that kid in that moment. That doesn't make you malicious. That doesn't make you wrong. That makes you someone who saw what was happening and stepped in when it mattered. And honestly, sometimes that's exactly what needs to happen, even when it makes things messy after. And let me just tell you, thank you for your service. You're my next hero. Seriously. Because I ain't even going to play. I'd have stepped right up into that and I'd have said, no, you ain't. No. Are you kidding me? Don't be a trash mother, okay? Just don't be a trash mother. That child deserves way better than what you're handing over. Whoo, okay. I didn't pull any comments off of that one because, that first one was a long one. So before we close out, I just want to bring this back to something real simple, because both of these stories, even though they look different on the surface, are really about the same thing. They are about what happens when the truth finally shows up in a space that has been built around something else. Once that happens, everything shifts. People get uncomfortable. People get defensive, and they start focusing on how it was said instead of what was said, because that is easier than actually dealing with the truth itself. And that is what we saw in both of these situations. Not people saying, wait, why do they feel this way? But people saying, you should have said it nicer. For real? Y'all. That right there is something I want y'all to really pay attention to, because it happens all the time. We say we want honesty, but only if it fits inside what we are already comfortable with. The moment it does not, the conversation changes, and suddenly it's about tone and timing and delivery, anything except for the actual truth. And the reality is, not all truths are going to come out in a way that feels good to hear. In fact, most of them won't. Some of them are going to sound exactly like what they are, and that does not make them wrong. That just makes them real. And I think what both of these situations show is that when you ignore that long enough, when you avoid it, you build around it instead of addressing it, it does not go away. It just builds until it comes out all at once. And when it does, look, it is not going to be neat. It is not going to be easy. And it is definitely not going to be comfortable. But that does not mean it should not have been said. So as you go about your day, as you move through your own situations, I want you to think about that. Not just whether someone or something is hard to say, but whether it needs to be said. And if it does, understand that you are not always going to be able to package it in a way that makes everyone feel good. And that's okay. Because sometimes the truth is not there to make people comfortable. It's there to make things clear. And once things are clear, then you can actually decide what to do with them. And that is where the real change happens. So take that with you, please. Sit with it a little bit, and I'll see you tomorrow because I'm here every day at 3. Y'all hit that thumbs up for me before you go, please. And hey, when it's over, leave a comment. Let me know you were here. I really appreciate everything that y'all do. I love seeing y'all. I wish y'all would talk more in the chat. Thank you. Thank you so much for being here. And hey, you guys, you know what? I will buzz you later. But first, go see my friends at Tuber Chat.
I want to take a minute to shout out Tuber Chat. If you're a creator who's tired of surface level advice, says, and actually wants to understand how YouTube works, that's the space. It's real conversations with real creators who are in the trenches, building channels, testing ideas. No posturing, no gatekeeping, no fake guru energy, just people sharing what's working, what isn't, and why.
If you're serious about growing, learning, and not doing this alone, check out Tuber Chat. The link is in the description. If you're enjoying this show, subscribing is the easiest way to support what's being built here on BBTV. You'll see the join button right next to subscribe. No pressure, no expectations, just an option for people who want to support the channel in a real way. We're live every day at 3 p.m. Central now. And don't worry, we didn't change the heat, just the clock. And if you've got a story you want to share, send it in. Anonymous is always fine.
Boss be right.